Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm excited to be joined today by Jonathan Briggs, who is VP of Enterprise Sales at Nimble Robotics. How are you doing today, Jonathan?
I'm doing well, Andy. Thanks for having me. Excited after our first conversation to get back in here and talk again.
Absolutely. Me too. I was looking forward to having you on the show with me. Just to kick things off, I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor, Fleet Drive 360. If you're looking to streamline your FMCSA and DOT compliance, open up new capabilities, streamline things, be sure and click on that link below. So Jonathan, you and I, like you mentioned, we had a chance to talk offline about some things happening in supply chain and a few news items from your company, actually. And, with this explosion of e-commerce in recent years, I know our audience will want to hear about some of these trends and keys to success. First of all, I'd like to go back a little ways. So how did you get involved in this autonomous picking area?
Well, obviously, when I started, we didn't have robots in the industry, so I had to cut my my teeth a little bit somewhere else. So started in transportation, small package, 20 some years ago on the ops side, then got into sales side, and having worked across UPS and FedEx and multiple divisions of DHL, and then figured out a way to get into e-commerce, regionalized fulfillment, and at the end of my time at DHL, and then went over to Quiet Logistics, which was recently acquired by American Eagle. And then in the height of everything that we all lived during COVID, just watching how tumultuous it was to get employees to work and the rising cost of inflation, robotics really started to stand out to the business. It started to stand out to me. Somehow I got recruited heavily to get into robotics, and made a leap in 2021 to get into robotics with a different company, and then in the last year or so now at Nimble, and we are a combination of robotics and 3PL powered by our own robotics. So it's been a long and winding road, I guess, to get here. But the good news is, everything I just rattled off in my past life, I get to use every single skill, and everything I kind of all rolls into one in what I do here at Nimble. So there was a reason for all of those things, and so using everything that I've learned along the way.
Absolutely. That's much better than some of the college courses I took that I've never used again in my life, right?
Same here. and nor would we, right? Everything is outdated once that book got printed, even when we were learning it back then. So I know that story all too well.
Absolutely. Yep. So, that's a really interesting background and great experience with some awesome companies. And I love what you guys are doing. I've been, checking it out and looking into it and talking to you. And, for those kind of looking into this area, what would you say are the top 2 or 3 considerations for deciding on autonomous warehouse picking versus other methods?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things, right? Like, you've got to understand, do you have the profile for it? Do you have the capital? A lot of us may take a capital investment. Do you have the length and volume, length of time and the volume it takes to get the actual return on investment? Because there's a cost to get started in robotics, whether you do that as a robotics as a service, or you buy systems and hardware up front. You've got to figure out how to pay those things off. And so first and foremost, I think one of the most technical conversations I've had since I've been in robotics is, what is my actual labor cost? It's shocking how few people really understand what goes into the labor cost. And so first, you really need to truly understand your labor components to really understand, can you get the ROI? Because if you just look at it through the hourly pay rate and maybe your 20% that you pay for the federal and the insurance, you're never going to ROI it. If you look at it through the lens of all the fringe benefits, the turnover, if I have to pay bonuses, if I'm paying college reimbursement, if I, whatever those things are, you probably have a labor rate that's in the $40 to $50 on something you think is 15, and robotics start to pay in a hurry. And then there's the other side of it is, it may not even be that. It may not even be a cost thing. It just may be, is it something I just can't get the bodies into work for? Like, that might be another thing. So I think, a very long-winded way to say, you need to truly understand what your costs are, what you're trying to solve for. And then and then run the models. Like not every solution solves every problem, and there's situations we go into where industrial engineering outweighs what we do in robotics because it's a small SKU count, and they can stand still and pick all their orders right from a pick wall to a pack out station without any traffic. And so why add the overhead of automation, robotics, and stuff like that when just good old fashioned and layout and design can solve that problem? So you just need to truly understand, is it an improvement or not, and then look at it through the lens of, do I want to do I need a material handling equipment? Do I need sortation? Do I need am I doing it with the fork truck scenario? Am I doing it with do I truly want to be, like you said, fully autonomous? So lots of things to consider. It's not something you just do overnight, I don't think, and then figure out how hard it would be to get up and running, what are lead times, and so on and so forth. Or you could just outsource to somebody that's already done all that work and put your products in somebody else's warehouse, which is something that we've learned along the way and have set up what we're doing with.
Awesome. So you actually set up the equipment and had the warehouse ready for them, and are you doing the logistics and trucking part of it too?
Yeah, so we started as robotics as a service in a business, and we learned, we figured out the automation, artificial intelligence, and all of the things that come across touching millions of different unique SKUs and high volume things. And then you started to realize that no two warehouses are the same, and what you want to do as a plug and play ends up being a custom integration and install for every single customer under the sun. And then scaling that looks really daunting in a hurry. And then also we started, getting bigger and wider with our automation capabilities, and went from just needing a pick station or a pack station to needing a building and needing a greenfield environment, really. And then now you're talking this huge headwinds I just talked about of capital, where now you need 30, 40, $50 million plus to throw at it. And then who's going to spend that with somebody that doesn't have a customer to show, right? And so that's where we decided, hey, we should just control it ourselves. We should develop our own 3PL network powered by this new age technology, solve a bunch of people's problems of all the things I just talked about in our earlier question, and then then they can just make it an OpEx play versus a CapEx play, and they can leverage what's being put in there. So we've built this network with multiple locations that are fully autonomous, that have really redesigned the warehouse completely. We got rid of racking, we got rid of aisles, we work in the cube of the building and not just the floor space of the building. So we work 30 feet high in all of the buildings. So as a result, we shrunk the buildings down drastically, got rid of about 65% of the typical warehouse labor in the picking environment, and fully automated that pick and pack process. And so very different process. So you don't necessarily have to go buy it and build it. There are pathways to go into a 3PL that that can do all of that for you and runs those systems and is very capable to do it. And you pay on a unit economics basis of per unit, transaction, per pick, per pack, per order, whatever. And then you can get up and running in a matter of weeks to months versus months to years to retrofit a warehouse, so to speak.
Right. Absolutely. So, what are 2 or 3 keys to success in this autonomous picking area?
Well, so a couple things. You've got to make sure you can have the reliability. There's a lot that goes into making a robotic system, a robotic arm, whatever type of robot it is, do something. So you got to make sure it can has the reliability to work through the shift, through multiple shifts, 6-7 day week operation. So one is that. Second is the throughput. Can it actually be around what you're getting with a people's process? Like some of these things look really cool, and yeah, they can displace a person, but they're doing it at a fraction of the rate that you can get. And so as volumes are increasing and you have the ebbs and flows of sales cycles and peak season, you've got to make sure it can keep up with the order volume. So I think those are the 2 big things, is making sure it's reliable, and then second, making sure it has high enough throughput.
Right. Absolutely. So, I have an industrial engineering degree and worked in a lot of warehouses, and it was fun looking at cycle times figuring out maybe we could do this, that, the other thing, and make it better. And it's just fun, I think, working in that environment. I really enjoyed a lot of years.
Were you ever the standards guy? Did you have to be the guy that set the rate for the building? So
I
you're
did.
everybody's buddy, huh?
Especially the union.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so you can appreciate all this. And one of the things that I've learned is that I think still industrial engineering is probably the biggest component of robotics, right? Because in this, a lot of folks that are in the space have not been in industrial space. They come straight out of college. They're getting a software or hardware to get from point A to point B, but they don't understand those double touches or wasted footsteps or traffic time, cycle time, all the things you is near and dear to your heart being an industrial engineer. And so it needs some observation. Once you get it to pick an item or pack an item or move an item, you got to then make sure it's efficient. Like, if I can go one right versus three lefts to get to the same spot, well, let's go one right. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so there's a lot of that it needs still some good old fashioned industrial engineering to make sure that it's going through a warehouse or going through an activity with the least amount of time and the least amount of wasted activity and stuff like that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it. So what are 2 or 3 of the positive things you've seen working with companies in this area?
Oh my goodness. Well, one is the fact that we truly can pick and pack. Like, there's so many quote unquote robotic solutions that have hit the market that have provided a lot of value. Don't get me wrong, I don't say this as a negative thing, but they still require somebody to put an item on it or take the item off. And all it is really more of a material handling piece of equipment. So the fact that we have been able to take millions of units and build an AI brain that has human-like skills of things like vision and dexterity and force control and touch and all of these types of things that we take for granted every day of, like, it's nothing for me to reach over and grab my cup and be like, I know how much force it takes me to do that. And I don't have to like compute a bunch of things. But for a machine, like, it needs to know what is a cup versus, what is a mouse, what is a bowling ball, et cetera. And so getting that to happen across tens of millions of items is unbelievable. So just that sheer success of being able to take a profile and from 100% of a customer's product suite and be able to pick that with the same system has been mind blowing to me, which is one of the reasons what was so exciting and attracted me to come to Nimble was, how many robots they had in production and how much diversity of product they could touch without the system failing and stuff like that. So it is unbelievable to see.
Amazing technology.
Yeah.
Truly amazing. As I understand it, Nimble has done 2 rounds of capital with a total of 115 million raised. So what are some of your big plans in the months and years ahead?
There's a lot of things, right? We have a large R&D roadmap. We have a vision as the business to be an end-to-end autonomous supply chain company. And so that's not just the 4 walls that we operate in today. So like that, think about automation on a cargo ship, automation within an actual container to load or unload that container. So where we're at today is we've automated pick and we've automated a chunk of the pack. We're going to continue to automate fully autonomously the pack out process to get 0 human intervention from pick through pack. So basically, from an item, being picked out of a storage location through a shipping label on it, have that completely autonomous. So that's where we're at today. From there, it's robotic sortation to handle the parcel side of the business, so that we can put piece to container scans and have a reliability that we're putting the right box in the right bin for the right carrier. So I don't put a postal box in a courier sort and vice versa. Allow us to do more strategic sorts. And then from there, it's loading and unloading of trucks. There's still a lot of labor in a very dangerous position of unloading and loading trucks, and so we want to be able to do that. And then from there, we want to incorporate it into the delivery side and couple it with autonomous vehicles to have also autonomous pick and delivery on a road environment. So lots going on. In the short term, though, it's a combination of those plus adding pins to the map. So we've got 3 markets covered of San Francisco, Dallas, and South New Jersey. And we want to continue to expand that network to get into more vertical markets, get closer to end customers. We most likely will add a Mexico operation for 2024 as well. And so it's a combination of putting more pins on the map and furthering that R&D roadmap that we have out there. So lots of stuff going on in our world for sure.
Absolutely. So what are the best ways to get in touch with Nimble and to get underway?
Yeah, so nimble.ai is as easy as it gets from a website. There's a contact form on there. I'm also a hyper active user on LinkedIn. You can find us on there. Our companies also is found there. So I think if between those 2 things, you could get in touch with us very easily.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for coming on the show today, Jonathan. It was great discussing this area with you.
Same here, Andy. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for this edition of the Trucking Tower podcast. Thanks for listening or watching, everybody, and we will see you again soon. Take care.